As we age, we often assume certain parts of our lives fade into the past, especially when it comes to intimacy. But here's the truth. What if I told you that your sexual health, your sense of connection, and even your emotional well-being could still thrive in your later years? In this video, I'm going to reveal 5 powerful masturbation secrets that every older man should know. These aren't just about performance. They're about preserving your health, strengthening your emotional balance, and ensuring you remain vibrant, confident, and connected even as you age. Why should you watch until the end? Because these secrets could change the way you think about intimacy forever. From maintaining prostate health to reawakening your sense of pleasure, these truths could protect you from silent health risks that most men are unaware of. And trust me, the final secret could be the game changer you've been waiting for. So stay with me, because the knowledge you're about to gain might just be the most important thing you've learned about aging. Let's dive in. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. At 73 years old, a man sat quietly in his dimly lit living room, a routine he had followed countless times before. It was a familiar moment, a solitary act that had once been a simple and comforting ritual. But that evening, something shifted. What had always felt harmless, even soothing, suddenly became something entirely different. This time, the end was not just the loss of control over his body. It was the loss of a part of himself, an irreversible change. And here's the most devastating part. It wasn't just because of the act itself, but because of the way he had been doing it and the things he never knew. At his age, the consequences weren't just physical. They were emotional, psychological, and deeply personal. The truth is, masturbation for older men, when approached with ignorance or outdated habits, can silently destroy the very health they desperately try to protect. It can chip away at the vitality, confidence, and energy that once came so naturally, without even a second thought. But this doesn't have to be the case. It's not about shame or blame. It's about awareness. It's about understanding the truths that could make all the difference in your health, your connection to your body, and even the quality of your intimacy in your later years. I'm Dr. James, a men's health specialist with more than 30 years of experience walking alongside seniors through the most vulnerable chapters of their lives. Over the years, I've helped thousands of men over 60, some grappling with confusion, others quietly suffering, and I've seen firsthand what happens when they are left in the dark about their sexual health. I don't speak to you just as a doctor. I speak as a man who has watched my generation age, endure, and struggle in silence, asking themselves, is this still normal? Am I doing something wrong? Here's the harsh reality. Most older men, for decades, have masturbated in the same way they did when they were younger. The body, the brain, and the heart change with age, but this fundamental truth is something most men don't learn until it's too late. What used to be a simple release can slowly, over time, drain your strength, sap your energy, and erode your confidence. The result? A gradual yet insidious decline in well-being, one that could have been avoided with just a little guidance and understanding. So why is this not talked about? Why do men, our fathers, brothers, and grandfathers, carry these outdated habits well into their senior years, never realizing the toll it's taking on their health? Why is no one shedding light on the dangers of continuing these behaviors long after they've outlived their usefulness? In this video, I'm going to reveal 5 masturbation secrets that every older man deserves to know. These are not warnings meant to frighten you but lessons designed to empower you, lessons that could protect your prostate, boost your circulation, and help you stay sexually active, safe, and fulfilled well into your 70s and beyond. These are secrets that could transform your health and bring back the intimacy you thought was slipping away. This isn't about fixing things with a pill or a quick fix. It's about reclaiming control over your own body, your pleasure, and your own life. Knowledge is power, and it's never too late to start. I promise you, these truths will give you the clarity and confidence you need to move forward. So, stay with me until the end. The final secret I share with you could be the one that makes the most profound impact on your health, your independence, and your ability to maintain intimacy as you grow older. You won't hear this from most doctors. After watching this video, you'll wish someone had told you this years ago. Let's begin. But before we dive into these transformative secrets, make sure you've subscribed and tapped the notification bell so you never miss another insightful, science-backed conversation about your health, your intimacy, and your independence after 60. If you find this topic valuable, drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're with me. If not, type 0. Your feedback is crucial. It helps me improve my content and bring you more of what truly matters to you. Now, let's break the silence and begin the journey into the 5 masturbation secrets that older men wish they had learned sooner, secrets that could have protected their confidence, preserved their health, and changed the way they aged forever. Secret 1. Your erection is no longer the whole story, and that's perfectly okay. Every man reaches a point where his body begins to respond differently. The blood flow becomes slower. The sensations feel unfamiliar. What once seemed effortless now requires more time, thought, and sometimes even frustration. And for many, this shift triggers a quiet, almost imperceptible panic, a voice inside whispering, "Something must be wrong with me." But let me assure you, this is not a sign of failure. No one ever told us this, but the reality is that your erection is no longer the full measure of your sexual vitality, and that's okay. Our generation grew up associating sexual success with performance. Hardness equaled health. Duration equaled power. But those ideas were formed in an era of unrealistic expectations fueled by movies, magazines, and toxic masculinity. As we age, no one tells us that this isn't the measure of our worth anymore. I've had countless men, 60s, 70s, and even 80s, sit across from me in tears, convinced that their inability to achieve a full erection means they've lost their manhood. What they don't realize is that the body is simply transitioning into a new phase, one where the focus shifts from performance to presence. It's a shift from the mechanics of sex to the connection between two people, from the relentless pursuit of climax to embracing intimacy in its most vulnerable form. Here's a little secret that's never shared with men in their golden years. You can still experience deep, satisfying pleasure, even without a full erection. Orgasm is not defined by the same standards that once ruled our younger lives. Yet, so many older men are never told this truth. They're left to feel isolated, unsure of their bodies, convinced they are failures. And that, my friends, is one of the most damaging myths of aging. Why do we, as a society, shy away from discussing older men's sexuality? Why does it feel so taboo? Doctors don't address it. Families don't ask. And most men are too ashamed to speak up, even among friends. The result? A generation of older men quietly battling guilt and shame over something as natural as breathing. Let me share the story of Charles, a 72-year-old man I worked with recently. He came to me frustrated, embarrassed, and ready to give up on any semblance of a sex life. "Doc, it's like the lights are on, but nobody's home," he said. Together, we unpacked years of unspoken assumptions and unrealistic expectations. I explained that pleasure doesn't disappear with age. It simply transforms. That with a little patience and self-compassion, he could still find fulfillment. 2 months later, Charles came back to see me, his face lit up with something he hadn't felt in years: hope. He was rediscovering intimacy, not in the way he once knew it, but in a way that was far more profound, more satisfying, and far more aligned with his true self. This is why the first secret is so important. Once you release the pressure to perform and begin exploring what feels good, a whole new world opens up. Touch becomes intentional. It becomes meaningful. And in that moment of presence, you will find a new kind of pleasure, one that is deep, enriching, and uniquely yours. Time, once thought of as the enemy in the face of aging, can become your greatest ally. And intimacy, whether with yourself or with a partner, transforms from a performance to something meaningful again. It is no longer measured by the stiffness of your body, but by the presence you bring into the moment. This is the truth that older men desperately need to hear, not just from doctors but from one another. It's time to shed the misconception that aging means decay. You're not broken. You are adapting. And that adaptation isn't a death sentence. It's a chance to rediscover your body in ways you never had the time or the courage to before. But here's the question that lingers. Why aren't more men hearing this? Why isn't it common knowledge that our sexual identity is about more than just anatomy? Why, in a culture that glorifies youth, do we so often neglect the aging process, especially when it comes to male sexuality? The truth is, society has conditioned us to believe that our worth is tied to our youth and virility. We're not taught to embrace the changes that come with age, we're taught to fight them. And this silence? It's costing us more than we realize. We, as older men, have been taught to suffer in silence, to never speak about our vulnerabilities, to carry the weight of societal expectations alone. But the truth is, this silence is slowly eroding our emotional and physical well-being. It's time to break that silence, both for ourselves and for the generations that follow. So if you've been feeling like something's off, like you've lost a part of yourself, I want you to hear this. It's not just you. And it's not too late. Your journey doesn't end with age. It begins again with a new understanding. Yes, the erection may no longer be the center stage, but what happens when you release the pressure of that expectation? You will discover an even more powerful and fulfilling experience, one that transcends the limitations you thought were set in stone. And speaking of powerful truths, what if I told you that masturbation after 60 is about more than just sex? It's about your emotional state, your stress levels, and your mental health. In the next section, I'm going to share something that most men never hear. The emotional reason why so many older men still turn to self-pleasure, and how ignoring it can quietly drain your energy, piece by piece. Stay with me because this secret will surprise you. Secret 2. Masturbation is not just sexual, it's emotional and neurological. Most men view masturbation as simply a moment of release, a physical need that doesn't go deeper. But after more than 3 decades of working with older men, I've come to realize that this couldn't be further from the truth. Masturbation, especially for men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, is not just a sexual act. It's deeply emotional, profoundly neurological, and, yes, psychologically significant. The reason so many older men don't understand this is simple. No one ever told us. No one thought we'd still be interested in pleasure, let alone still need it to feel whole. Many men don't even make the connection that masturbation can be an emotional lifeline until it's too late. Take Howard, a retired veteran in his late 70s, for example. He came to me not because of any physical struggles but because he felt emotionally flat, disconnected from life, and completely numb. He was just going through the motions, not really living, just existing. When we began talking, it became clear. Masturbation wasn't something he did for pleasure anymore. It was his lifeline. It was his way of resetting his mind after a long, stressful day. It helped him sleep, calmed his nerves, and brought him some much-needed peace. But he had never made the connection. He thought it was just an old habit that had stuck with him from his youth. What he didn't realize was that masturbation was serving a much deeper purpose: emotional regulation. And he wasn't alone. Scientific research confirms that many men over 60 use masturbation as a coping mechanism for stress, loneliness, grief, and even fear. It's not just about lust or release. It's about grounding, reclaiming a sense of control in a world that often feels overwhelming. But here's the catch. Most of us were never taught to look at our emotional lives, let alone how those emotions intersect with our sexual habit. We were raised to be strong, to man up, and to keep our feelings buried deep down. So when we find ourselves engaging in masturbation, not out of desire but out of emotional need, whether it's sadness, anxiety, or restlessness, we don't understand what's truly happening. And without that understanding, we risk turning a healing act into something hollow, even harmful. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. This is why this second secret is so vital. Masturbation, when used with awareness, can be a healthy, even therapeutic, act. But when it's done unconsciously, when we're using it to numb ourselves or to avoid facing deeper emotional issues, it can start to drain our energy, not because the act itself is bad, but because we've lost touch with its deeper purpose. Slowly, but surely, this can rob us of the joy and vitality that are our birthright. The truth is, masturbation in older age can be a powerful tool for emotional healing. But only when we approach it with awareness and intention. Only when we acknowledge that it's not just about physical pleasure, but also about self-care, emotional connection, and mental well-being. When we reclaim this power, when we understand its true purpose, we begin to heal. We start to feel connected, grounded, and alive once again. Let's talk about something vital: brain chemistry. After orgasm, your brain releases a cocktail of neurochemicals, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, that can radically shift your mood, improve your sleep, boost motivation, and even enhance memory. For seniors, especially those struggling with depression, anxiety, or insomnia, this release can feel like a lifeline. Yet, the benefits only come if you understand what's happening, why it's happening, and how to make it work for you. The harsh reality for many older men is that they've found themselves on autopilot. The same routine, the same habits, the same thoughts day after day. Over time, this consistency can cause the brain to go flat, no longer responding with the same energy or enthusiasm because it's not being challenged in new or meaningful ways. This is why it's so crucial to shift your mindset, especially when it comes to something as personal as masturbation. Rather than viewing masturbation as a simple habit, I urge you to see it as an act of awareness. Ask yourself, am I doing this to connect with myself, to truly embrace my body and emotions, or am I using it to avoid feelings I don't want to face? Am I choosing this moment consciously, or am I simply filling a void, escaping the emotional weight of life? Here's the truth that many older men never hear. No one taught us this level of introspection. Our emotional lives, especially as men, have been largely ignored, especially as we age. The assumption is that we stop feeling, that we become these emotionless, stoic figures who no longer care about intimacy or connection. But that's a lie. We feel more deeply now than we ever did in our youth. The only difference is, we've gotten better at hiding it. We've learned to suppress our emotions, to bury them beneath the surface, where no one can see. And often, the only time we allow ourselves to feel, to truly connect with our emotional selves, is when we are completely alone. This is where the call for awareness becomes urgent. It's time to stop pretending that touch is just touch. Because it's not. It's memory. It's emotion. It's survival. And when approached with the right mindset, it can be incredibly healing. Masturbation, when done consciously, is not just a physical release. It's an emotional and neurological reset, something far more profound than what we've been led to believe. And now, let's talk about something most men never realize, particularly those who've been sexually inactive for a long time. Masturbation doesn't just soothe the soul, it protects the body. In the next section, I'm going to share a truth that could change how you view your sexual health for the rest of your life. It's the quiet truth about the use it or lose it rule, and why it's not just an old wives' tale, it's a biological reality. Secret 3. The use it or lose it rule is real, but it's widely misunderstood. There's a hard truth that most older men don't hear until it's too late. When it comes to your sexual function, if you stop using it, you really can lose it. But here's the thing, no one explains how that happens or the profound impact it can have, not just on your sex life, but on your entire sense of self. This isn't a message of fear. It's a message of understanding. It's about recognizing the quiet, subtle changes that take place inside your body over time, and why so many men find themselves asking, "Why isn't anything working anymore?" The answer has been hiding in plain sight for years. As men age, our bodies naturally undergo a series of changes. Blood vessels narrow. Nerve endings become less responsive. The tissues in the penis lose their elasticity. These aren't random events or signs of weakness. They are biological responses to one very simple thing: inactivity. Just like a muscle that weakens when it's not used, the sexual system begins to atrophy when it's not engaged. And here's the part that breaks my heart. Most men don't realize this is happening until it's already too late. I've seen it time and again in my practice. A man in his late 60s or early 70s finds a new partner after years of solitude. Maybe he's a widower, or maybe he's been divorced for a while. Or maybe, after a long hiatus from intimacy, he simply decides to give it another try. But when he finally feels the spark of desire again, he discovers that his body just doesn't cooperate. It's not just a little slower, it's completely different. Numb, unresponsive, sometimes even painful. And the worst part is, he starts to believe that something is wrong with him, when, in reality, it's a perfectly predictable outcome of long-term sexual disuse. Why weren't men told about this earlier? Why isn't this basic truth part of every conversation about aging? The sad reality is that sexual health after 60 is still treated as an option, as if pleasure, intimacy, and connection no longer matter once your hair turns gray. This cruel myth robs countless men of the chance to maintain something that could have remained vibrant with just a little attention and care over time. The truth is, the use it or lose it rule is not just a matter of maintaining sexual function, it's about preserving your entire sense of self, your confidence, and your emotional well-being. The moment you stop engaging with your body, when you stop nurturing that part of yourself, the consequences ripple outward. It's not just about sex, it's about staying alive, staying connected, and staying vital, no matter how old you are. This secret, when understood and embraced, has the power to transform your health, your sexuality, and your sense of worth in ways you never thought possible. Let me tell you about Roy. He was 74 when he came to see me, a man who had not been intimate with anyone for over a decade. It wasn't that he didn't want to be, he had simply gotten used to solitude. His wife had passed years ago, and in the silence of his empty house, he gradually stopped touching himself altogether. The years of loss and loneliness wore him down until intimacy became a distant memory. When Roy met someone new, he was overjoyed. He thought he was ready, but when the moment came, his body didn't respond. He tried everything: pills, creams, gadget. Nothing worked the way he had hoped. I sat down with him, gently explaining that what he was experiencing wasn't dysfunction. It was disused. Over the years, the internal architecture of his penis had atrophied. Blood vessels had narrowed. Nerve signals had dulled. His body had been left to stagnate. No one had warned him this could happen. But here's the hopeful part. With time, gentle stimulation, and consistent activity, even just with himself, Roy began to notice a shift. It wasn't a miracle, and it wasn't overnight. But it was real. His body slowly started to remember. His confidence began to return. He was feeling alive in ways he thought had slipped away forever. This is why masturbation, especially in the later years of life, is so much more than just about pleasure. It's about maintenance. It keeps blood flowing to delicate tissues, signals to your body that it still matters, and your body listens. You're not simply keeping a function alive. You're keeping yourself alive in ways that are deeply personal and emotionally grounding. So many men believe that if they're not in a relationship, their sexual health doesn't matter anymore. But that's the biggest misunderstanding of all. You don't need a partner to stay sexually vibrant. You just need presence, curiosity, and consistency. The beautiful truth is that daily or weekly attention to your own body may one day allow you to re-enter intimacy with another person, fully present and capable, because you never let that part of you die off. Don't wait for a future partner to rediscover your body. Keep that relationship with yourself strong, because the moment you let go of it, the body begins to forget. And the longer it forgets, the harder it becomes to remember. But there's another hidden danger I've seen, one that most men rarely recognize until it has already weakened their drive, drained their energy, and left them feeling disconnected from real intimacy. In the next section, we'll talk about something nearly every man has turned to, especially in moments of loneliness, but that could be quietly rewiring your brain in the worst possible way. This next secret may be the one that's costing you more than you realize. Stay with me. Secret 4. Porn may be destroying your sexual reflexes without you even knowing it. When you're alone, especially as an older man, it's easy to fall into habits that feel comforting. Late at night, the house is quiet. You reach for what's familiar. Your phone. Your tablet. Maybe your laptop. A few clicks and you're watching a scene that promises quick satisfaction. It feels automatic. In the moment, it works. But over time, something strange begins to happen. You notice your arousal fading faster. The climax feels duller. Your real-life interest in intimacy begins to fade. You don't feel broken, but something feels off. This right here is the hidden cost of a habit that's gone unchecked for far too long. Porn, especially for older men, may be silently destroying your natural sexual reflexes, and most men have absolutely no idea it's happening. This isn't about shame. It's about science. I've seen it again and again. Men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s who are confused about why they no longer respond to touch the way they once did. Why their interest in real women and real moments has gone flat. They chalk it up to age, hormones, or stress. But often, the real culprit is years of overstimulation from watching porn. And unlike the days of youthful curiosity, the consequences now run much deeper. You see, your brain has what's called a reward system, the part of your brain that tells you what to want, what to crave, and what feels good. When you watch high-intensity porn, especially in isolation, your brain gets flooded with dopamine, the pleasure chemical. At first, this feels incredible, but just like any drug, your brain starts adapting. It begins to need more visual input, more novelty, more shock. What used to turn you on now barely registers. Your threshold rises. And as it does, your connection to real human intimacy weakens. What makes this so dangerous for older men is that our brains are no longer as flexible as they once were. The plasticity, the ability to bounce back and form new healthy patterns, slows with age. So, if you've been relying on porn for years, especially as your primary source of sexual stimulation, the wiring in your brain becomes rigid. Over time, it stops responding to natural cues like memory, imagination, or even loving physical touch. This is what I call arousal fatigue, and it's incredibly common among aging men. The worst part? Most don't even suspect it. They think they're losing their sex drive because of age, medication, or stress. They don't realize it's because their brain has been trained to only respond to intense, artificial imagery. And now, it no longer lights up for the real thing. I once had a patient named Ernest. He was 68, widowed, and retired. He started watching porn every night just to feel a sense of closeness to someone, anyone. At first, it brought him relief. But after a year, he realized he couldn't feel anything with another person, not even emotionally. It was like he'd built a wall around his senses. He was numb, detached, and deeply frustrated. We worked together to slowly detox from that dependency. It wasn't easy, but within months, he began reconnecting with his own body. Not through videos, but through breath, touch, and memory. Slowly, his senses came alive again. The truth here is clear. Porn is a shortcut that leads to a dead end. If you rely on it for your sexual stimulation, you're wiring your brain to ignore the richness of real human connection. You're missing out on the beauty of authentic intimacy. And it's never too late to rewire your brain, to bring back that authentic desire for real touch, real connection, and real pleasure. The first step is acknowledging the problem. The second is choosing to change. Roy's journey was a transformation, a rediscovery of himself in ways he hadn't thought possible. After years of living alone, he'd lost touch with the very essence of his being. He felt like a man left behind, buried in the past, a man who had forgotten how to feel alive. But through patience, presence, and the courage to start over, he stopped being lost. Roy began living fully in the present, reconnecting with his body, his emotions, and his vitality. And this truth breaks my heart. So many older men don't even realize this is happening to them. No one warns them. No one talks about the quiet dangers of porn and its effect on the aging brain. Instead, they slip into isolation, unknowingly losing their connection to their natural pleasure and assuming it's just a part of growing old. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can retrain your mind. You can reset your response system. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. It all begins with stepping away from the screen, even if it's just for a while. Let your brain rediscover the simple, powerful sensations of your own body. Slow down. Breathe. Touch with presence, not with performance. In time, you'll be shocked by what you still feel, by what's still alive inside you, waiting to awaken. And once you break that cycle, something beautiful happens. Your imagination returns. Your sensitivity deepens. Your desire for real connection, whether with yourself or someone else, grows again. This isn't about quitting sexuality. It's about reclaiming it from something that has been quietly stealing it from you. And now, let's dive into the final truth you need to hear. One that ties everything together. Masturbation, especially as you age, isn't something to hide, to feel ashamed of, or to view as a guilty pleasure. It may just be the most powerful tool you have for aging well, for preserving your health, your happiness, and even your dignity. Let me show you why. Secret 5. Most doctors won't talk about it, but masturbation can be a lifeline. In all my years working with men over 60, there's one thing I've heard repeatedly, and it always breaks my heart. I didn't know it was still okay to do that at my age. They say this softly, almost apologetically, as if they've been caught doing something wrong, something inappropriate, something shameful or dangerous. But the truth is, it's the exact opposite. Masturbation, especially in older men, isn't just okay. It's often one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself. Not just for sexual satisfaction, but for your emotional balance, your physical health, and even your dignity. The sad part is that most older men never hear this. And the reason is simple: most doctors won't talk about it. Why? Because we're trained to focus on what's wrong, on symptoms and medications, surgeries and diseases. We're taught to talk about everything but pleasure, connection, and identity. And especially, we're taught to avoid talking about those quiet private habits that can help keep a man grounded and healthy. This silence is the real danger. It's not just about sexual function, it's about the loss of self. When men stop acknowledging and nurturing their sexual health, they stop seeing themselves as men who still deserve pleasure, who still have desires, and who still matter in the most deeply human way. And when that happens, the world starts to shrink. It's not just about getting older, it's about becoming smaller emotionally. I've seen this happen so many times. One man I worked with, Walter, hadn't touched himself in nearly 6 years. After his wife passed, he convinced himself that part of his life was over, that seeking pleasure alone was somehow inappropriate, maybe even unhealthy. But over time, his mood darkened. He stopped sleeping well. He became irritable and restless. It wasn't until we truly talked about the role of sexual touch in his emotional well-being that he started to understand how vital it was for his mental health. I will never forget the moment he looked at me and said, "I didn't know I was allowed to still be a man." That moment stuck with me because it encapsulated everything so many men feel but never speak about. The truth is, so many older men have internalized the belief that sex, especially solo sex, is only for the young. That after a certain age, it's childish or unnecessary, maybe even dirty. This belief is incredibly harmful. The need for touch, for release, and intimacy doesn't fade with age. It simply changes form. And when we honor those changes, when we approach them with curiosity and care, we don't lose ourselves. Instead, we return to ourselves in a way that's often deeper, more meaningful, and more fulfilling than we ever expected. So why don't more doctors tell you this? Because many of them are uncomfortable. Because they haven't been trained to discuss aging and sexuality with dignity. Because they fear opening a conversation they don't know how to navigate. And because they wrongly assume that you don't want to talk about it either. But I promise you, you're not alone. Thousands of older men are asking the same questions, struggling with the same uncertainty, and grappling with the same fears. And we have to break the silence, not just for ourselves, but for every man who comes after us. It's time to reclaim your pleasure. It's time to reclaim your health. And it's time to reclaim the parts of yourself that you thought were gone forever. Because they're not. They're waiting for you. I want you to know, without any doubt, that it is never too late. You are still allowed to feel the pulse of your emotions. You are still allowed to desire, to long, to experience the simple pleasures of being human. You are still allowed to touch your own body with gentleness, with love, with the kind of care that nourishes your soul. Masturbation is not a sign of disconnection, nor a reflection of failure. It can be, in fact, a profound form of connection, a bridge between the physical needs of your body and the emotional yearnings that still reside deep within you. It's a way of telling yourself, I still matter. If you've spent years wrapped in the cloak of doubt, questioning whether your desires are shameful or if your habits are somehow wrong or dangerous, I want you to set those fears aside. Let them go. Release them. What you choose to do in your most private moments, when you're present and treating yourself with the respect you deserve, is not just healthy, it is healing. In a world that so often overlooks older men, this quiet, intimate act can be one of the most powerful forms of self-respect left for you. It's not about indulgence. It's about taking the time to care for the one person who has stood by you through every hardship, every challenge you. At the heart of this is a simple truth. The problem is not masturbation. The true problem is the silence that has kept you from honoring your body and your needs. Once you break that silence, you begin to reclaim parts of yourself that were never lost, only forgotten, buried under layers of neglect. You've already unlocked 5 powerful truths that can change your life. But there's one final piece that ties it all together into something transformative. I want you to stay with me until the end, because this truth is the key that will forever change the way you view aging, and the way you see yourself. This simple, powerful truth could very well reshape your relationship with your body, your mind, and your spirit for the rest of your life. And when that happens, you'll understand that it's not just about getting older, it's about learning how to grow, how to feel, how to live in a way that honors who you truly are. So, what have you learned today? What has resonated with you the most? Take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed and think about one powerful insight that you're ready to bring into your own life. One simple change, one shift in how you view yourself, your body, and your needs. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's the one thing you're committing to practice going forward? Please, take a moment to share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Your experience, your journey, could inspire someone else who's been silently struggling with the same questions. And if you found this video valuable, if it helped you see things in a new light, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us reach more people who need this message of healing, self-care, and transformation. Together, we can continue to break the silence and reclaim the power we deserve. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.